Hey everyone, you've tuned in to the Brave Files podcast, and I'm your host, Heather Vickery. I'm delighted to have you here with me today. But before we get started, I have a question for you. Have you ever thought, I'd really like to start my own podcast. And then you quickly shove that thought aside because it seems too hard. The barrier to entry is a little bit too high. Or maybe you've been dreaming about starting a podcast for a very long time and there's just too much to learn and there's not enough time and I don't know how, right? Do any of those things describe you? Well, I'll bet they do. And I have a pretty cool solution for you. I have collaborated with some incredible professionals, and we have created the Podcast Power Academy. The Podcast Power Academy is for people who want to go from concept to podcast in as little as 4 weeks. Not just that, we have training and checklists, but it's super hands-on deliverable. It comes with one-on-one coaching with me, who is also a success and leadership coach, as well as a podcast host. It comes with editing and a trailer and custom music that you get to design with our composer, as well as copywriting, swipe copy, full branding, including a logo and cover art and social media templates, and so much more. If this excites you, if you aren't a DIYer who wants to try and muddle through and figure out how to create a podcast and spend hundreds of hours doing that work on your own, visit us at podcastpoweracademy.com to get all the details, or you can send me an email, heather@vickeryandco.com, or email Podcast Power Academy directly, info@Podcast Power Academy, and we will get all your questions answered. We are super excited to bring this very high touch product to you. There is nothing else like it on the market. If you are ready to make your podcast a reality, come check out the Podcast Power Academy and let us help you do that. All right, folks. So this week's episode is one that I really love. It's a short episode, but it is jam-packed full of really exciting things. This week, I chatted with Kingsley Grant. And Kingsley is an author, a speaker, a coach, a podcaster who just has, a really fantastic approach on things. He and I talk about how when we can hone in on our emotions and learn to manage them, we have stronger relationships personally and professionally. So this is a combination of emotional intelligence and a few other things. He's actually affectionately called it emotelligence. Kingsley and I also talk about the difference in being a boss versus a leader. Bosses boss and leaders lead. Think about that for a minute. It's actually really true. And leaders, if you are a leader, it's something you do in your life in a 360 manner, right? So I chat with Kingsley about learning to lead and guide our lives with emotional intelligence and how that leads to stronger relationships across the board. Kingsley even shares with us how losing his mom and hearing about her unfulfilled dreams on her deathbed is what motivated him to go out and make sure other people never bury their dreams when it's the end of their life. Stick with us. This is going to be a great episode, and here we go.
Educate, empower, and entertain.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. Hey everybody, it's Heather Vickery. Welcome to the Brave Files. I'm so glad y'all decided to tune in today because this episode is about finding your inner leader, achieving success in ways you didn't expect, and how to make better decisions. Who doesn't want to do that? Kingsley Grant is a speaker, a coach, an author, and he hosts the show. It's a podcast called The Kingsley Grant Show, which is awesome. And he's also the founder of I'm not going to say this right, emotelligent movement. Kingsley, how do I say that?
You said it right, emotelligent.
Emotelligent. Kingsley, welcome to the Brave Files.
Thank you, Heather. It's awesome being here just to sit across the microphone from you. This is a tremendous opportunity, so thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you for your kind words there. I have to ask, what is emotelligence?
Great. Emotelligence, the best way I describe that is imagine yourself driving on the highway and a state trooper pulls up beside you. How is your driving? Does it get better or it gets worse?
Oh.
Right. It gets better, right?
I think so.
Okay. And so emotelligence then is like the state trooper of your emotions. It helps you to get better, to do better in the areas of life that you find yourself, whether it's your relationships, at home, at work, on the streets, wherever you are. And that is an emotelligent person.
That's awesome. I love that. And I want to know more about how one can use that to reach new levels of success in all areas of their life. But first, will you tell me a little bit and tell all of us about how you got into this type of work and why it's so important to you?
One of the things why this really is a life work for me, Heather, is that, my mom was an educator all her life, a school teacher, and in 2011, she died, and she battled cancer for...
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. For quite a while. But towards the end of her life, my younger sister, her name is Charmaine, had sat down with her and was asking her some very deep questions. And one of the questions she asked her was, Mom, if you could have done something else with your life other than teaching, even though you were successful, what would that be? And without skipping a beat, Heather, my mom said to her, I wanted to be a nurse, and that nurse died within my mom, and she brought that nurse to the graveyard, and my decision in life was to help as many people as possible not to take their dreams to the graveyard and make it any richer, so I can tag myself as a graveyard robber, so I want to rob the graveyard of any more dreams to get there. So my idea of leadership and emotelligence is helping people find a way to hone in on managing their emotions so it doesn't manage them. And not only that, but to use that to make better decisions, use that to be better in their jobs, and use that to be better in relationships. And that is the mission I find myself in.
I love that. And I love that the inspiration came from your mother. That's so fascinating. I'm constantly revisiting how much my mother sacrificed or felt she needed to sacrifice for my own betterment. And I am a parent, and I don't know, are you a parent?
Yes, I am. 2 kids, yes. Yeah.
And I don't feel like I have to sacrifice for their betterment. And in fact, I believe that pursuing my passions helps them grow into stronger, healthier individuals. Where do you stand on that?
I agree wholeheartedly because I'm a late bloomer, so to speak. When I went back to school for my master's, and my kids watched that as I pursued my own dream and fulfilling what I believe my calling is. And when they watch that and see their dad doing that and make a very successful run at it, they are inspired because they're thinking, and I've heard them say this, that we're really proud of the fact that you put your mind to that and you didn't allow yourself to be held back because some people have, I'm so late in life, why should I not go back to school? So those are the things they see. They see my commitment. They see my hard work. I'm just the work ethics and all those different things as I pursue. So in a sense, they too are feeding off that. And I see now, because they're young adults themselves, I see now they're doing the very same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I always do a word of the year. And a few years ago, my word was brave. Actually, this was about 6 years ago. My word was brave. And it's, of course, my whole business now. I have the Brave Files,
yes.
and all of everything I do is helping people leverage their fear into intentional bravery. But this was back in the beginning of my journey really into bravery. And since having done that, I hear my kids say to each other and to their friends, and sometimes even to me, I did this really brave thing. And I think there's something so powerful about knowing that you're choosing bravely. So when did emotelligence actually come, and how do you use it as a vehicle to help others grow?
It's a great question, Heather, because for me, it's about 2.5 years or so ago this journey began. Well, it really had begun way back before then, but I did not really recognize and hone in on this one area as I did. Well, I was invited to a networking event, and while I was at this event, this lady was speaking, and she went on, and then she said to all of us, this one thing, if you truly just get even a part of it, not the whole thing, your life will be so much different. You will be, your trajectory for your future will transform. And I'm thinking, what could that be? So I leaned in, Heather. I leaned in. I wanted to know more, right?
Yeah. I love it.
And then she raised her hand. She asked a question for us to raise her hand and ask a question of her. I raised my hand in the session. She didn't call on me. I was so like, come on, right?
I'm ready.
I'm ready, yes. But in hindsight, Heather, I'm so glad she never did, because I would have made a fool of myself had I asked the question I was going to ask. So I spoke to her afterwards and one-on-one, and then my question was answered. But what she talked about was the idea of emotional intelligence and how 90% of successful people across all spectrum, their success are based because they're high in emotional intelligence. And so I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, that's one skill, she said, that will really transform everything about you. And I began to do my own due diligence, and I researched, and I began to look at people and study individuals. And I came up on the book by Dr. Daniel Goleman that he wrote in 1995 on the idea of emotional intelligence. And what happened, Heather, is like, I got so excited. I'm now able to put a word or a phrase around what it is, right?
Yeah, I love people who make up their own words for cool things.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, how do I do this in a very sexy way? And I just thought about the idea of words like infomercial, where it's information and commercial.
Yeah.
Right? I thought about sitcom, situation, and comedy. If someone did that, and that's mainstream today, what if I came up with a word? And so I joined emotion and intelligence together and say, if I join this together, what word would I get? And it was emotelligence. And it's the art of succeeding where others failed.
The art of succeeding where others failed. That's fantastic. I love it.
Thank you.
We've talked about emotional intelligence on the show before. We had Sapna Shah on specifically talking about fostering emotional intelligence in kids. That was episode 69 called Nurturing Emotional Intelligence. But I haven't had a lot of conversations with people about doing it in adults. And of course, that's important. The idea of doing it with children is so that we don't have to do it again when they're adults. We can we can do better because we know better. Yes. What kind of roadblocks do you experience as you try to get people to think about emotional intelligence over, or emotelligence, as you lovingly call it, over IQ or sort of traditional quote unquote intelligence?
That's a great question, because I say, I was giving a talk recently, and I opened up my talk by saying, how many of you know people who are very intelligent, but yet they make dumb decisions? Right?
Yes,
and do dumb things. And we all know people like that. I know I have, I think I'm pretty intelligent, but I made dumb decisions myself. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what then is it? If it was only intelligence, why do we make all these, many times, not all, but so many dumb decisions? Therefore, there's something else must be missing. And what I find when I speak to adults and they do training for leadership, the thing that I drive home is this, that relationship and how you manage relationship is what makes you successful. It's not anything else, because every sphere you have people involved, and it's how you relate, how you interact with them that determines what they can, especially the leader, what they will do to either make you successful or sabotage your success, because they are a very important part of that. So when I talk to adults, especially in leadership capacity, Heather, I challenge them. If you want to maintain and keep your best, highest performers, you better have good emotional intelligence. And if you want to supercharge your underperformers, you better have very good emotional intelligence, because you're working with people, not product.
I love that. And so much of the work that I do in corporations is helping leaders honor what I call the whole employee. So that those folks that they've hopefully picked and honored their emotional intelligence, that they value them in a 360 way, that those folks know their value, that they have a voice that matters, that it's okay to take care of themselves sometimes. Because when we foster that, especially in a corporate environment, we have people who are our fierce fans and cheerleaders. They stay, they sell harder, they make more money, the customer service is better, right?
Yes.
And I love seeing those things partnered together.
Yes. And I think, my latest book is called The Emotelligent Leader, Succeed Where Others Fail and Become the Leader Everyone Wants to Follow. And what happened, I wrote a chapter, that very same idea, Heather, because I find that people want to champion you if you give them reasons to champion you. And so I say, I wrote this article also as in conjunction with that on LinkedIn, and about people do not follow leaders. They follow what they see in
That's
leaders.
right.
So if leaders are able to show these people that they truly are there for them. And so the chapter is on leadership is stewardship and also on relationship. That means how do you build that relationship and let them see that you're there to help them become a better version of themselves. It's not just the company or the organization. You're there for them.
Yeah.
And when they are convinced of that, they will go the extra mile for you. And that's what I find when I help leaders to catch that vision.
Yeah.
They realize, wow, I didn't realize that.
I love that. And the idea that they're there to help people grow. I have some really amazing corporate clients. One of them regularly listens to the show. So, Krenza, if you're out there, I love that you give this to the people who work with you. She goes above and beyond to help them develop themselves, no matter if they plan to stay with the company or not. And you know what? She's like the Pied Piper. They love working for her and with her. And it's no nonsense. Like she's serious business, right? They bust their butts for her because they don't want to let her down and they believe in what she's doing. And all leaders have the ability to do that. And I love that you're out there helping them do that in a non-traditional way, because I don't think that business as usual is business as usual anymore.
That's very spot on. Things have changed, and the quicker a leader can come to realize that if you're going to do what works in the 21st century, you've got to redefine leadership. And so I'm on this mission to redefine leadership. That is, it cannot just be something you do, it's who you are.
Yes.
That's 24/7. And so how do you become that person? You've got to be self-aware. You've got to be able to manage your emotions and those around you, and have the foresight to realize that your role is to help people, like I mentioned before, is to lead people, is to help them become a better version. And how do you raise them up? How do they see you and celebrate you, and you make them a rock star? You make them a rock star when you pour into them. And even the fact, like you mentioned, the person, your client, because what happened is that even though you might be tough and you want to get the work done, they will do whatever is needed because you have done the very same thing for them. So become very reciprocal in that process, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I truly enjoy doing, I have a corporate program that's called the Empowerment Program, where I go in and I do both leadership training, but also helping the employees that aren't yet in leadership roles yet.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important. It's one thing to train the leaders to do this, but the other folks don't necessarily believe that they have the autonomy, that they have the voice, that they have the value and the worth. And so training them, I help them find, it's why it's called the Empowerment Program, empowerment to step up into these things that the leaders are passing down and helping them, rise up to. And everybody has the ability to be a leader. It does not matter where you are on the totem pole at work. You can step up into a role as a leader instantly if it's valuable to you, and it should be valuable to you.
And I agree. And that's the idea. I did a controversial article, Heather, that says, you can either be a boss or a leader. You can't be both. Oh,
I love that. I love that you called it controversial, and I can see why. But yes, I agree.
I had a lot of pushback, and some people are arguing because I say, boss is boss. leaders lead.
Yeah.
And so who wants to be bossed around? So if a leader is true a leader, he or she is going to raise up people to become leaders themselves. And that's the idea, and someone may say, well, Kingsley, what if I raise them up and they leave? And if I do all this mentoring and coaching, and then I say, well, what if you don't and they stay?
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I love that. I had to just pause and let that sit. What if they stay? And also, if they go, that has to be okay.
It's okay because they're going to go and celebrate you out there if you did a good job and talk about you. And so your legacy lives on.
Yeah, I love that. And you're just building more bridges when you do that.
Yes.
Which is incredible. I love that so much. I would love to know from you how you decided to start a podcast and what you bring in the podcast that is, if it's different or the same, what can listeners expect if they decide to listen to the Kingsley Grant Show?
Heather, thank you so much because I really, see myself as a communicator. I love to persuade and influence because I find that I want to see people become the best version of themselves as well. So I, motivate, inspire, and all of those different things. And so for me, I was looking for a platform that really fits me and fits my style. And so for many years back, I decided to jump into podcasting when it was really just beginning early stages of all of that, and just to kind of get out there, get my voice and all of different things. And so that was my first entrance into it. And I saw others who were doing the very same thing. And I hooked up with people who truly were, podcasters and had a passion for that and wanted a platform and a voice themselves. And so by doing that, I realized this is a platform that will give me that opportunity and autonomy to truly be myself. And so, of course, I went through several podcasts until I finally settled on, what? I have changed so much. The Kingsley Grant Show gives me the ability to speak about the things that really, truly resonates with me, and which is, leadership and communication and relationship, because that's what I've been doing for all these years in my own leadership capacity. So my platform in the Kingsley Grant Show is truly you go there, you hear topics, whether interview or a solo show on leadership skills and emotional intelligence skills where they intersect. So the difference between my show and just a leadership show or an emotional intelligence show is that it's not an either or, it's a both and. So I just really I talk about where they intersect and what works for leadership today.
I love that. And that you just have such a magnetic energy. I imagine anytime you're in the room, people can't help but get excited about what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just a passionate person in that regards, because when I really truly believe in something, and even when I listen to your show, Heather, I get inspired, from your show because you have that voice as well. You have that way. It's true. I was just listening to your show recently on one of your shows, and the questions you're asking, but even the guests, if they come on and they're not, used to being behind a microphone and know how to push that energy a bit up, you kind of bring them up. So you do have that ability, which I admire. So I love the fact that we can use our voice as our instrument to really help people hear the chords of our voice and resonate with that, and then do something as a result of that. So I want to have them do something, be something, or feel something from my presentation. And that's really, I believe, why I bring it the way I do.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. You said a couple things just now that I use a lot when I lead gratitude circles. Do something, feel something, say something, hear something. And it makes me want to ask you, do you have a gratitude practice, Kingsley?
Oh, yeah, I do. Heather, for me, every single day I tell people, if I'm vertical, it's reason, right? When I get up and I just out on my feet, and because here it is, 2008, I found myself at the end of 2008 on a gurney in a hospital with my chest split open, right? Quadruple bypass surgery. I could have died. And so, but even before that, though, I'm so thankful for life, because I realize what it means to take a deep breath, just to breathe, period. So having to look at all I've been through in my life and the different things I've gone through, I have to, every single day, I give God thanks for life and for health and for strength. And for me, it's just the very fact that I can breathe and stand up and move. I mean, those are things that I'm truly, truly grateful for.
I love that. Well, I'm certainly glad that you came through that well to bring all this wonderful
Thank you.
growth and energy. Yeah, absolutely into the world. I love that you have a daily gratitude practice. I've written 3 books on gratitude, and they're also guided journals. So
Awesome.
one of them I love so much. I know you said your kids are grown, but one of them is geared towards kids and families. And again, like what we talked about earlier, I believe if we know better, and when we know
Yes.
better, we're obligated to do better, and we can start developing these life-changing practices that put us in the driver's seat of our own health, happiness, and well-being. And if we can start that with our children and they can carry those into their adulthood versus teaching them once they're grown,
Right.
can you just imagine how the world would be so much more fantastic?
And I believe that is part of our calling, yours, mine, and others who are truly invested in wanting to make this world a better place than we got it. And I think that if every one of us did our part, like you just so well, articulated, I believe that we would have a better world. Every one of us doing our small part of in our own little corner, and it connect those dots together, it could create a huge movement. And that's why, the whole idea of emotelligence, I believe that if every person can become emotelligent in their thinking and their behaving, we will have a better place. So what you're describing is part of this whole movement, what I call the emotelligent leadership movement that will, I believe, transform people's lives even beyond when I leave this earth.
I love it. I believe it will too. I think that's fantastic. So speaking of creating something that's going to long outlast you by tenfold, we hope, how do you celebrate success? And it doesn't have to be big, masterful, successful things, but whatever you feel like has been a good accomplishment for you, how do you celebrate?
I think I begin by, of course, with gratitude is part of my celebration process as well.
Me too.
There you go, right? So I look at those things, and I look at, for me, it's today. Am I better today than I was yesterday? And so for me, celebration looks like, well, not just a gratitude part, but what is it? And how can I challenge myself to become a better version tomorrow?
Yeah.
So it is more of my thought process. It's more the mindset reset. It's the idea of my emotions and being very much aware of those things. So my celebration is more internally driven than externally. And it's how am I growing? Am I becoming a better person of integrity and character? That is how I look at, for me, how I measure and celebrate my success.
I love that. All of that. I think it's gorgeous. I so value internal quiet celebration.
Yes.
I also value, I'm the first person to throw on Pink's Raise Your Glass and dance my butt off when
Me
a book
too.
finally gets to publish, all of that stuff. But I really, those quiet moments of reflection are beautiful ways to celebrate.
Yeah.
Kingsley, I love so much what you put out into the world, and I'm excited to hear from you. What is your favorite charitable organization to support?
Compassion International. It has been, always will be. I think it captures everything that I'm about. So I really, truly stand behind Compassion International.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I've never, ever heard of them. Can you tell us briefly what they do?
Yeah, they really work in third world and fourth world countries in helping kids get better education, help the family overall to become better in both, holistically approach in that regard. So we sponsor kids that they have kind of sifted through and say, hey, this kid needs some help. And we sponsor those kids and help them from very early years all the way through to high school years. And it could go beyond as well. But Compassion International do a fantastic job around the world in really helping kids become better. I mean, they really would not have been without the outside help of Compassion International.
I love that so much. What a fantastic organization.
Yes.
So they'll be our charity of the week. We will share it with everybody. And friends, listeners, go learn more about them. Follow them on social media.
Yes.
Spread the word. If you have something to give, time, money, energy, whatever it is, we ask you to do that. Kingsley, will you share your 3 words with us one last time?
Sure. It's educate, empower, and entertain.
Sometimes we get to the end of the interview and I need people to explain their 3 words. You are not one of those people. I think we get all of that, and you're absolutely entertaining. And certainly I believe that via entertainment is one of the most exciting ways to connect with people and help them truly grow. So I just love everything you're doing. I'm going to use the concept emotelligence. I'm going to share it. And I want to thank you so much for spreading all of that infectious, joyful energy with us today.
And Heather, thank you so very much for the work you're doing and for the brave work and calling all of us to bravery. I want to just applaud you. Keep on doing what you're doing. We need it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I love that. Well, if you all also feel that way, and I hope you do if you've been listening, then I have to ask, have you joined us on Patreon yet? Did you even know that we have a Patreon page? We do. Patreon is this really fantastic website that connects people who value creatives and artists with those who produce the work. And I'm one of those folks. And you have this really exciting opportunity to join our growing Brave movement and help us make a real difference in the world. If you haven't done so yet, please visit us at patreon.com/bravefiles. That's patreon.com/bravefiles to learn more and find a sponsorship level that works for you so we can keep doing big, brave, awesome things. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. I loved sharing Kingsley's exciting, wonderful energy with you. This is Heather Vickery reminding you today and always to go out and choose bravely. The Brave Files is proudly supported by Audible. If you enjoy listening to podcasts, you're sure to love listening to your favorite books on Audible. Get your free 30-day trial complete with a credit for a free audiobook download today simply by visiting audibletrial.com/thebravefiles. Again, that's visiting audibletrial.com/thebravefiles. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes, or get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we'd love to know what you think. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching, coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music is produced by Matt Lewis. Follow him on Instagram at mattmmusic or visit his website, theunionband.com. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to our associate producer, Kim Statler. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.